So if you're like me, you go to Home Depot for one thing and walk out with, $20 worth of discounted lumber. Then I tried to figure out what could I build with this. I knew I had some 2x12s as well as some 1x12s. So I figured if I cut those down to size, I would be able to build an entryway bench. So I decided to cut my 1x12 pieces together because I knew that they would need to be somewhat of a mirror image of each other. So I began by cutting my largest piece, which was my bottom and middle shelves, to 46.5 inches. And then I cut my middle columns to 16.75. And I also cut my top, which is the 2-inch piece of wood, to 46.5 inches. Now it's time for me to figure out how exactly am I going to do my cross halves. And guess what? Math is not my strong suit, so I pulled out the calculator, did some number crunching, and finally, I got it. So the horizontal midway point would be 5 5/8 because my board is technically 3/4 and 11/4 inches. Once I found out that I needed to determine how far down do I need to make my cuts so I can do my cross halves. I went first and found 15 inches down on each side, and then I just used the thickness of the board to determine 3/4 inch. Yeah, I could have did it with a ruler, but doing it with the board actually made it more easy. And then I just did the same on the other side. So I have my square here that I'm cutting out and my piece here. I'm gonna cut behind each piece so that it's over. And now I'm going to do the same thing to basically my other piece. So I made the cuts on my other pieces, but now my middle columns need to be 8 inches on each side and a 3/4 cut in the middle. All right, I did the cuts, but I did not videotape because it was just a lot. So I used the jigsaw as much as I can. You can kind of see, basically it goes up to this line. So you see how this is where this part ends and that's where that cut begins. And it's more seamless over here, which is great. So here's what my middle section will eventually look like. And now it's time for pocket holes. So I used my 720 Pro jig to create the pocket holes. I did one on each corner, even on the middle columns, because my goal was to actually use the pocket holes in the middle columns. Really not the safest and smartest idea to do this on my lap, but just also goes to show you how mobile the 720 Pro jig is. As I started to put my pieces together, something just wasn't quite right. And I tried different screws, as you can see, to see, maybe it's the length, and guess what? It was. The biggest thing was that my screws were not long enough for what I wanted to do in the wood or get into the wood the way I wanted it to. I didn't want to have to re-drill all the holes, and to be honest, when I tried to do that didn't really do much. So I went and got some more tools. I got 2-inch ones just because why not? You need it. And then 1.5 inches is going to be that. So I am going to use the 1.5, and I'm going to hopefully get through finishing up building it today. So now it's time to glue and screw. So I am going to add my glue to the corner edges. I'm starting off with my sides and my bottom. And of course, whenever you're doing pocket screws, or majority of the time, you're gonna put the pocket screws to the bottom of the fixture. So for instance, that is my bottom piece upside down that I'm screwing into my sides. Then I can turn it over, and now I'm going to glue up my middle. And of course, hindsight is always 20/20. So if I was to do this build again, I definitely would not have put my middle shelf in at the beginning. I would have actually put my columns in and screwed them using the pocket holes to the top and the bottom. Then I would have just inserted my shelf and then secure those with the pocket holes on the side. So I had to end up using the nail gun, as you saw earlier, to get my top and bottom secured to my middle columns. So here is the final build, and then the paint and final staging of it in the living room.